Welcome, everyone. We're glad you joined us for this really very well-registered webinar. We literally have hundreds and hundreds of people registering, and on the line already, there's well over 200 people, and it's just on the hour. I'm sure we'll get lots more joining in. So thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your day to join us today. I think we've got a really fun and engaging presentation for you, and more than anything else, we want your participation. As we all get settled and you get your speakers tuned and making sure that you can hear us okay and making sure that the volume's where you want it to be. There's a couple housekeeping things. The first thing is very common question. Are you recording this? Can I share it later on, or can I, rewatch it? And the answer is yes. We will be recording this session. In fact, we're already recording now. We'll be posting it on our YouTube page later on this evening. That's youtube.com/Qualsys. And we'll put a link in the chat for you so you can be able to get that. I'll type that in right now, youtube.com/Qualsys. You will be able to go to that link and subscribe to our channel if you choose and get all the great video content we've been creating, as well as all the webinars we produce. There's a great 4-part series we just did for the UK a couple weeks ago that's interesting to watch if you choose to do that. Lots of other great webinar content we've created over the years, in addition to the sales and marketing videos, the training videos, the technical videos, things like that are all there. And we'll be showing one of those videos today, actually, during the webinar presentation. So you will get a link to the webinar presentation as well in a follow-up email tomorrow, along with a short survey that we'd love it if you could complete for us. Also, from a housekeeping perspective, I want to make sure that you understand how to interact with us. We want there to be interaction with you. We want you to be able to feel like you're part of the conversation, that your voice matters. So please find the question or chat section in your GoToWebinar control panel and send us a quick message. Let us know where you're calling in from. Are you working from home? Are you at the office? Maybe you're dialing in from your van as you're about to go do an install. Where are you calling in from? And it looks like we got quite a few people in there who are saying they're in. Justin, welcome. Frank, good to see you again. Adam. Robert is coming in from his home office in Cincinnati, Ohio. Jackson, Colorado. Francisco, welcome in the office and lab as always. Glad you're on today. Mike in Windsor. Randy working from home. Joe in central Mississippi in the cold. I believe it. It's pretty chilly here in Utah. We've got maybe half an inch of snow on the ground, and we're supposed to get 3 to 5 inches tomorrow. So I'm excited. I want to take my family skiing. Jorge from ADT Argentina. Well, impressive. I think you win for the farthest person away so far. Chris, welcome. James, coming in from the home office. Justin, Lance in Springfield, Ohio. Dean in beautiful Vancouver Island. We were just watching that show Alone the other day, my wife and I. That Vancouver Island's a pretty interesting place. Kent, Washington. Tess, welcome. Siggy down in Las Vegas, always sunny there. Todd, Blair, Adam, Jeff, Tim, Calvin. There's so many people on today. Richard Kramer, good to see you, buddy. Kevin, Aaron, David, Indy. I mean, the list goes on and on. There's just literally so many people on today. We can't thank you enough for joining us. We really do appreciate it. What I'd like to do is, as everyone's getting comfortable finding the chat and putting something in there, I want to start us out with a poll. And this just kind of helps us understand a little bit about you. The first question is, are you currently installing Qualsys products? And the reason I want to know that is because if you're new to Qualsys, there's going to be a couple things I'm going to want to say to make sure I cover things well with you. If you're not new to Qualsys and everybody here is already installing Qualsys products, then we could probably move past some of that stuff. And it looks like we do have a large percentage of people who are brand new to Qualsys. That's great. But the majority of you, 82% so far, and that number seems to be climbing, 84% is all saying that you are currently Qualsys customers. So thank you very much for your business. Thank you for choosing us for your solutions, and we really truly hope that as we work with you guys on the solutions that you're doing, whether it's residential, commercial, etc., that the IQ panel and PowerG and all these other products that we're selling are meeting your needs. Dave, welcome from Chicago. Jorge from New York, Hudson Valley. Jen in Kansas. Ed says his new snowblower is fueled up. That's great to hear, which Calvin won't need because he's in southern Florida. Ricardo in Miami. Steve in Kingston, Ontario. So many people joining in today. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll, and I'm going to ask you another poll question. This one is wanting to understand what kind of install method you use. Are you doing pro install, meaning you've got a technician that goes out to the home and, comes inside and installs everything for the customer, or the business, whatever the case may be. Or are you doing DIT, meaning you're doing some level of configuration? Maybe you're delivering it to the customer so they can finish out the install. Maybe you do all the configuring, you pair all the sensors and get everything all done. You deliver it to the customer, and then they will put it up themselves. And then DIY, meaning you're basically just sending it to the customer, and then they do it themselves with perhaps some phone support or video support from you. DIT seems to be really growing in momentum, especially with COVID. When people first started thinking about how are we going to navigate this challenge of COVID-19 and lockdowns and things like that, before we were able to be labeled as an essential business, a lot of people were saying, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this? And so DIT became a very, very popular term, and it seems to be gaining some tremendous momentum. My understanding is most, if not all areas, security companies are labeled as an essential business and can go out and install and things like that. Whether or not that will change at some point, I don't know. But I think it's great to be ready for that kind of thing and have a plan in place to be able to do a DIY or DIT install for your customers, so you don't have to put your business on hold until those limitations are lifted. So thank you for answering the questions of that poll. And we're going to stop with polls for a second here. And what I'd like to do is dive into our presentation and do a little bit of introductions. I'm Jeremy McLaren. I run marketing here globally for Johnson Controls. Very excited to host this for you today. And I've got a very special guest today, Bob Smith, VP of Security Operations. Bob, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about your company.
Thanks, Jeremy. Bob Smith. I've been with Alliance for 26 years now. Our company's been around. It's second generation family-owned company located in Kingston, Ontario. We've been in business in the security industry since 1978. Our catchment area would be from, we'll say, Cobourg, which is just east of Toronto, right to the Quebec border, and up into Ottawa Valley. So we cover a fair bit of ground. Our business was primarily intrusion systems back in the day. That's a phrase that everybody, I'm sure, is familiar with. We've branched out. We definitely are more into system integration these days, but our core business is absolutely intrusion systems, and we certainly have found a nice fit with the Qualsys product and the PowerG, of course. We're very satisfied and happy to be part of this session today, and hope what I bring to the table is of value to somebody. So thank you.
We really appreciate it. And we're going to really lean on your insight today as how you've applied some of these things. One more question for you. Residential commercial split in your organization, how much are you doing of each?
So we would have been probably 60-40 residential to commercial previously, but we've definitely noticed a shift into the commercial space. So we're probably going to be 40-60 now.
Interesting. Is that just because of COVID, or is that something else?
I would say primarily because of COVID, even though we may have seen a little bit of a shift more towards commercial previous to that, but we're really noticing that number now for sure.
Interesting. I'm curious to know from our audience too, if that same thing holds true for you guys. Has your business shifted to be a little bit more commercial when it was previously more residential? Love to hear your comments in the chat. And then we also have Mark, who's the Eastern U.S. Director of Technical Account Management. Mark, welcome. Thanks for taking time out of your day. Your role's changed a bit, since Qualsys was acquired by Johnson Controls. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so with Qualsys, it was more just as a technical account management group. We just cover wherever we needed to go, and we didn't really have territory set out. But with moving over to Johnson Controls and with this awesome, combination of forces, I'm overseeing the Eastern U.S. for technical account management. So that's anything east of the Mississippi, including Louisiana, and working with those existing technical account managers with Johnson Controls. But glad to be on here today with you, Jeremy and Bob. It's a pleasure to be helping out.
Yeah, thanks very much, Mark. Rich in the comments says commercial rules. Justin says they're doing a lot more commercial now. So very interesting. And Tim says, is there supposed to be video? Yeah, we're streaming both our video cameras, all three of us, as well as our, we're sharing a screen with a presentation on it. So if you're not seeing that right now, maybe try logging out and logging back in, but we definitely want everyone to enjoy it. And just a reminder, we are recording this session so that in the event that you missed it, you can certainly watch it again. Let's dive in a little bit to our presentation today. I want to first talk about what's in the box. One of the things we're marketing, right now, and the email that you registered with was talking about the new IQ Panel 2 Plus, IQ PowerG Kit. And inside it is the IQ Panel 2 Plus, a PowerG motion sensor, and a PowerG door window sensor. Now, this was really unusual, and yet also not unusual. When Johnson Controls, aka Tyco, first made a strategic investment in Qualsys, one of the very first things people said was, hey, can you get PowerG sensors in the box? And because we were still two separate companies, we were not able to do that. And so we would create virtual kits at your local distributor. Hopefully many of you took advantage of that. But as PowerG became more and more exciting, more and more enticing, especially with the release of that IQ Panel 2 Plus with the PowerG radio built into it, more and more people were asking, can we please get a kit that's all prepackaged with everything in the box? So one of the very first things we did when Johnson Controls acquired Qualsys was to say, let's put it in a box. Now we're all one company. Let's get it all together in one box. This is a direct request from so many of our customers. And so we're really excited to be able to provide that to you. There are three-part numbers available, depending on which radio you want to use. There's a Verizon version, an AT&T version, and a TELUS version. Now, all of these boxes have inside, like I described, the panel, two-door window sensors, and a motion sensor. And I want to talk first a little bit about the panel, because there have been a lot of questions about this. The first one is that there is a dual SRF in this panel. So it is a PowerG kit, so there is a PowerG radio, 319.5 radio in it. So the same radio that's used in Interlogic sensors, the same radio that was used in our first generation panel, in the IQ Panel 2 as well. So all of those systems would all still work with those. So if you're walking into a situation where you wanted to basically, replace an old system with something new, if it's an old Interlogic system or maybe a first generation Qualsys panel, you could replace that with this one. And voila, not only do you get all of these great differentiating features, Bluetooth touchless disarming, live view, live answer, the built-in glass break, but you're also going to have all the existing sensors that are already in the home or business pair easily with the panel wirelessly, be able to add in the new PowerG sensors that are included in the box. And then, of course, if previously the customer was on a 2G up in Canada or a 3G in the United States, now you can upgrade them to not just LTE, but LTE and Wi-Fi dual path connectivity. I think there's a lot of questions about LTE, radios. There's a lot of people who will ask about, well, why you're doing 4G LTE instead of more? And there's an article that I'll want to pull out and put in the chat here in a second so you can see it. But some of our competitors will tell you that you need a cell sled or a cell swap thing to be able to change out the cellular radio, and that's simply not true. If you look at the way LTE technology was built, it was invented by Qualcomm, the same company that makes the chipset that's inside the IQ panel. But that LTE radio that's built inside every single panel is long-term evolution. That's the name, that's what LTE stands for, is able to continue being used even as towers turn into 5G towers and 6G towers and things like that. LTE was designed to continue evolving without a need for change to hardware. So if you have a 5G tower outside your house, the IQ panel with a 4G radio can absolutely still connect to it, absolutely still be able to transmit its information and data, through that 4G LTE line, because 5G was essentially built on the backbone of 4G. It's just a faster, better version of it. So there's a lot of backwards compatibility there. There's not a need to change out a panel. And I personally want to try and challenge all of us, if you're getting pressure from some of the competition out there to try and move to a product that has a cell radio because they're trying to scare you that you're going to have another cell sunset happen to you, I would encourage you to think about your phones, okay? In many cases, we get a new phone when we are ready for the next version of the features and benefits that it provides, not necessarily because of radio changes. Now, there were some of those. On my iPhone 3G that I had years and years ago, I had changed that out for the iPhone 4, I think it was, or iPhone 5. And, that technology continued to advance. So, there's two things I want you to remember as you think about using IQ Panel for your 3G upgrades. The first one is this is LTE and Wi-Fi dual path connectivity, which means they're both working simultaneously. You've got tremendous capability there to transmit data, to be able to get fast response times on all the commands you're sending and receiving from the panel. But the other thing is that redundancy that occurs is not like what many of our competitors are doing. This is real-time simultaneous redundancy. It's intelligent redundancy. It's smart enough to know that, hey, maybe the LTE is a little bogged down. Let's send it over Wi-Fi. Or, hey, the Wi-Fi is getting bogged down because you're streaming Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever. Let's send it over LTE instead. And so it's smart enough to know that one or the other is down. That creates an intelligent, redundant system that keeps you connected all the time, and you don't have to wait 30 seconds for a failure. Many people will say they have dual path, and what they really mean is they have two paths to choose from, but they're truly only single path connectivity. They're only doing one pathway of connectivity at a time. This is true dual path connectivity. And you'll actually
Jeremy, just to speak on that,
them going through. Yeah, please.
Just to add on that, Jeremy, I've had a lot of conversations lately with dealers where, the fact that both of those are primary, you got cell primary and Wi-Fi primary. They're both being sent, at the same time. We have that intelligent cloud built that we know, hey, whatever signal gets there first, we use. But when you're talking about 10 years down the road, the fact that they have that Wi-Fi for the dual path, that's what dealers that's why they like it so much. You're talking about, I got to upgrade this. Well, you always have the Wi-Fi connection, and it's a primary connection.
Excellent. We're getting some good questions in the chat. One question, James wants to know, why not have 3-door sensors in the box? As we talk about what's in the package and what's there. Well, the first thing is, as you look at the packaging, and someone said something about I do have the wrong part number there. I put PG9914 twice. That's not the right part number there. It's supposed to be 9303. You know what? I'm going to fix that right now for everyone. Look at this. Real-time edits. That's how we do it. 9303. That's the correct one. Thank you so much, you guys, for catching that for us. So why not have 3-door window sensors? There's one really actually simple reason, and that's because this is what fits in the existing IQ Panel box. Rather than having to create all new packaging, all new everything, we're basically taking the existing IQ Panel box, putting in the motion sensor and the 2-door window sensor boxes, the 2-door window sensors. Yeah, I said that right. In the box itself, and then being able to ship it without having to create all new packaging. That helps keep costs down for you, and it helps do it. It also keeps costs lower down for you in terms of the price itself. By having 2 in a box that does it. Now, if you want 3 or 4 or whatever, talk to your distributor. They are more than happy to create some virtual kits for you that allow you to add even more sensors to the kit and get some great pricing on it. So thanks for that. Let's see. So Guillermo is asking, does the new panel combine 319 and 345 all in one? And the answer is no. This particular panel is 319 and PowerG. So it's a good clarifying question. We do still have a panel that has a 345 radio in it. So if you're about to go into a home that has maybe an old 2 gig system or a Honeywell system, you can use the silver box of the IQ Panel and do that. We don't currently have a PowerG kit plan for the 345, but if it's something that you think you would like, put it in the comments below. We'd love to hear. In fact, maybe we'll put that in our survey questions and ask if it's something that's going to be useful for you, because if so, we would definitely want to listen to that feedback and do it.
If anyone's new to Qualsys, just to be clear, that 345 panel also does include the PowerG. So they all have the dual SRF.
Yeah. And then James asks, what's the plan for Qualsys after the Johnson Controls purchase? Well, if you saw the press release about the acquisition, many of the leaders in the Qualsys organization have now been given leadership positions in Johnson Controls, and we're all working very hard to try and realize the vision that we set out on back in 2013 when we launched the company at ISC West in Las Vegas. And, we've got a long roadmap. In fact, little teaser for all you guys that are on the webinar today, I'll be hosting another webinar shortly. I believe it's mid-January, towards the end of January, to talk about our roadmap, to talk about all the different cool things we're producing in 2021 on both the Johnson Controls and Qualsys side. And essentially, it's just the Johnson Controls side. I'm introducing myself as Johnson Controls, Mark as Johnson Controls, there's a tremendously exciting product line roadmap that we'll be sharing with you right after the holiday season. So stay tuned for that. And I'm glad you're asking those questions. Let's keep going on our content today because we've got lots of questions and comments. I want to address those as well, but I want to make sure we get through all of our stuff as well. So one thing is one platform and multiple use cases. And I think this is really important for those of you that are saying, hey, you know what, I do residential and I also do commercial and, but I haven't really branched out some. So I want to ask you guys in a poll question, what types of installs are you currently doing? Are you doing residential? You know what, this is supposed to, don't answer that question yet. Hold on. That was supposed to be a choose all but apply, and we did that wrong. That didn't work. Hold on. I'm going to fix that one as well. I worked so hard to prepare for this, but that's okay. So we'll get that poll question in a second here. Residential, commercial, multifamily, and wellness. And I'm very curious to know from you guys, and we'll fix that poll question here while we're watching the video, and then we'll ask it again. But to learn which use cases you're using IQ Panel for. Is it really effective, in a wellness type scenario? Maybe you're using it for builder, maybe using it for things like that. Because the great thing about this is you have one platform. So this PowerG Kit we're talking about, you could literally take that PowerG Kit, take it into a wellness install, enable the wellness homepage like you see right here on the screen, and put one sensor on the door window, on the front door, one sensor maybe on the medicine cabinet, and voila, you've got yourself a wellness system. You could take that system into a multifamily, apartment complex, put the panel up on the wall, put a sensor on the, front door, and maybe another on the window, and now you've got yourself a multifamily, solution. And then of course, depending on what other devices you're adding, will really help to fill out that type of install. Maybe you want to add a smart lock on the apartment door, or you want to do a bed sensor, in that wellness install, things like that. And the great thing about it is with the integrations we have, all of the different things we're talking about here are absolutely possible with a single panel. It doesn't matter which installation you're going to go take it to. It's simply changing the settings, tweaking the way it's installed, and adding different devices that allow you to enable that. If it's in a commercial setting, maybe you're going to do partitions. Maybe you want to do screen lock so that, not anyone can walk up and interact with the system, but it requires them to have a code, an authorized code to be able to use it. You're going to enable Alarm.com's commercial services, which are really robust and really exciting. If you're not familiar with those, definitely check out the webinar we did a few months ago about the Alarm.com commercial services and using IQ Panel in a small business or commercial setting. It's really compelling. So there's lots and lots and lots of things you can do, lots of power. I also want to change a little bit to sensors, and want to ask a quick poll, and I do have this one right. I want to ask, what types of sensors are you currently installing? And choose all that apply here. Are you using PowerG sensors? And this is for all of your installs. Are you using PowerG sensors? Are you using legacy wireless sensors like a 319.5 or a 433 sensor? Maybe you're using, 2 gig sensors or Honeywell sensors or DSE sensors, things like that. And what percentage are you doing hardwired? Some of you do hardwired as well. Some of you are going to do all three. Some of you are going to say, what, I'm PowerG only, or I do only hardwired, things like that. We've got solutions for all of it, and we want to make sure that we're meeting your needs in terms of those solutions. It is pretty exciting to see the poll results as they fly in here. 87% so far are saying they use PowerG. 68% are still using hardwire, which surprises me. I thought that number would be a lot lower. And then 66% are using legacy wireless, but people are still chiming in there. While people are filling in that poll, Bob, you tell us, what about you? What do you use for your installs? What does Alliance use for sensors? Wireless, legacy wireless, hardwired, PowerG, a mix of all of them?
So now on any new install, we're all in on PowerG. Again, I'm going to say back in the day, I'm old school. I came up with wiring every device, home run back to the panel, window sensors, shock sensors, everything, and it took a long time to make that transition from a hardwired approach to a wireless approach. We've put in DSE 433. We use that for a while as a hybrid solution. But once PowerG came along and you know, we put it through its paces, we made sure it was tested properly and we're satisfied with it, that was our go-to. When Rob first approached me about possibly participating in this session, I had brought up to him that I had just had a problem finding 4-conductor alarm wire because we just don't stock it anymore. We actually needed it for some access control we're putting in, but I was searching all of our spots where we keep wire just to find enough for what we needed, because we're just primarily wireless PowerG now, and it works well for us. So
yeah, you know, I talked to someone the other day who was sharing the experience they had with bidding on commercial jobs with wireless versus hardwire. And they said that not only can they get the installs done faster with PowerG, but they're doing it at a fraction of the cost. So while the competition is out bidding a commercial job with hardwired, that means that they're now running conduit. They are renting scissor lifts. They're doing that kind of, you know, lots and lots involved with that. It's a great install. It takes a lot of time, and I'm sure it looks beautiful. They said now we're going in and we're basically saying we can use PowerG on these, and we're able to do it at literally a third of the cost of our competition. So we're winning every single bid we do, and we're doing it in a fraction of the time. So not only are we winning all our bids, so we have more business, but because an install might used to take, you know, call it 5 to 10 days to get all of that work done, now it's only taking a couple days, and in some cases, you know, 10 hours to do a commercial job. So it's, they're doing more business in less time, which of course means more money, more popularity. Their business is growing like crazy. So it's really exciting to see how cutting those wires and providing it, you know, providing that solution to, you know, the end user, to the, you know, the businesses and homes that are out there, can really change your business, you know, from a security industry standpoint. It's pretty exciting. Let's keep on going here. So I asked the question, the poll question about PowerG, and I want to talk briefly about these PowerG sensors. You know, the primary the motion that's in there is part number PG9914. As you probably know, PowerG has a lot of different motion sensors. This particular one was the one we thought was the smallest and cleanest. We thought this would be great for, you know, a variety of types of installs. But if you have a need for other motions, sold separately are things like 360-degree motions, curtain motion, outdoor motion, things like that. There's a wide variety of PowerG motion sensors to fit your needs. This is certainly not the only one, but this is the one I personally like the best. So I'm glad this is the one we chose. It's got tremendous range, and we're going to show a video about that here in just a minute. It's got the industry's best encryption. I don't know why it says built-in glass breaks. Look at this. There is some shoddy PowerPoint work in here. Look at this. I don't know who's building these PowerPoints these days, but he or she just needs to be publicly flogged. This is pretty awful.
Can I jump in for a second?
Please.
So all of those motions that you just mentioned, I actually just recently quoted, and I believe we won an opportunity that I'm using all of those that you've just mentioned in an outdoor facility with 3-foot block walls. And I had zero hesitancy in choosing that solution. Now, where I'm putting my receiver and repeater, obviously I have line of sight, but when we're there deploying it, we're certainly going to test that repeater in the location where it's actually blocked by those 3-foot block walls. Because just for our own, just to satisfy my own curiosity is how well will that work? But again, placing an existing hardwired system that they wanted to go wireless with, and this made the perfect sense to go with this option.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting you bring up repeaters. Mark and I were talking about this earlier as we were preparing for the webinar. Repeaters are not just to extend range, are they, Mark? They're also to strengthen the network and improve battery life, right?
Correct on that. And I was talking to a dealer out in Tennessee.
No.
Oh, it says
I'm not on. Sorry.
You can hear me, right? Okay.
You're good.
I was talking to a dealer out in Tennessee that said, hey, we just did this warehouse, you know, it's 150,000 square feet. Originally, you know, it was my first PowerG install, so they built in 4 repeaters for it. Well, he did the entire install and realized, hey, I don't have to use any repeaters. You know, everything's working fine. And then I explained to him that, well, if you went back and you add a repeater halfway down that building, that'll make it so your sensors that have this auto signal adjust built into them, meaning If they're far away, they'll use full power, or if they're close, they can use less power and get much longer battery life, up to double the battery life by being closer. I said that would make sense to put in a repeater, and now those PowerG sensors that are farther out there don't have to use as much power to communicate back to the panel. So a lot of good use cases for repeaters outside of just that distance.
Sure.
Yeah, PowerG is great because it does have that ability, because it's a two-way communication. It can say, hey, it's almost like I use the analogy of sitting in an auditorium in a college class. Those who are sitting in the very front of the auditorium just need to talk in a regular voice as they ask questions to the professor standing on stage. I got a question. What type of dinosaur is your favorite? Whatever. And, in the very back of the stadium, in the back of the auditorium, the person at the very top is probably going to have to yell a little bit more. It's the same thing for a PowerG sensor. So if you had, a PowerG sensor way on the outskirts, on the edge of the building, of the facility, whatever it is, and it's still able to connect to the panel, but it's using all of its strength to do that. It's literally using all of its power to do that, which means it's going to burn through batteries faster. If you're able to put a repeater between those two items, then instead of using its full strength, it can use just part of its strength, because it can say, hey, I can reach the repeater just fine. It can receive a message back from the repeater saying, hey, I'm right here. You don't need to yell. Go ahead and whisper to me, and I'll be able to hear you, and I'll pass your message along to the panel. And then that way, your battery life might, double or even triple. And I've heard of some PowerG sensors having upwards of 8 years of battery life, which is pretty tremendous, when installed in the right situation. So pretty cool. So don't be fooled by the picture. I was showing two different angles of the motion sensor. There's one motion sensor included in the particular kit. You're obviously welcome to purchase as many more as you like. And then the door window sensor is part number PG9303. Also has tremendous range. It's got the industry's best encryption. And apparently it also has a built-in glass break, which it doesn't. What the heck? I really have got to work on my PowerPoint skills more, you guys. I apologize. Delete that right there. Make sure this is accurate. Okay.
Hey, that was one of the questions that came up in the background as well about a built-in glass break. So I did answer that. I just didn't send to all. Sorry about that.
Yep. No, thank you very much. And that's a typo on my part. There are more and more requests for combination sensors and things like that. And, I'd be curious to know in the chat, would you be willing to pay more for a sensor that does more? Or would you rather have a sensor that does less and is more simple at a lower cost? It's a very, very interesting scenario there, because those are sometimes two sides of a coin there. I really love the idea of putting these PowerG sensors on anything that opens or closes. Let me give you some real life examples just in my personal home. I've got a PowerG sensor on a medicine cabinet. And when that medicine cabinet opens, it, of course, alerts the panel. If that medicine cabinet is left open, then I get a text message within a minute that says, hey, you've got your medicine cabinet left open. If I've got a kid who's climbing up there, getting stuff, messing with things like that, I want to know about it. If they open it up, we hear it on the panel. We hear the panel chime, medicine cabinet open. We've got one on a downstairs door that's just a door leading into a storage room. And that storage room that you have to fumble for the light, in the dark for the light, well, now we have it so when you open up the door, the sensor tells the Z-Wave light, hey, turn on. And so when you open the door, the light turns on. When you close the door again, the light turns off again. So it's there as a convenience. I've got sensors on my children's doors. And when they wake up in the middle of the night, I had little Ethan, 4 years old, woke up last night. Before he was able to make it all the way up the stairs, we heard the door open. We were able to hear, front door open, went down, and were able to find him downstairs wandering around in the dark, fussing, crying, had a bad dream. Able to scoop him up, get him back in bed right away. And any parent will tell you that's a great use case. The reason I use these analogies, and I want to share this information with you, is because I want you to make sure that you're opening your customers' eyes to the possibilities. As you're sitting there talking with them, you're talking about all the different places you could put these. Of course, you want to think about security. The front doors, the exterior doors, those are the ones that are going to get the most attention. But where else could you use a little information? Where else would you like to be notified if it opens up? Do you have a safe? Maybe your chemical storage where you keep your household cleaning chemicals. Anything that opens or closes is a great candidate for this. And think in the scenario where you're going into a home where you already have a system installed and you're going to upgrade that. Let's say it's a 2G upgrade or a 3G upgrade. And you go and you pull down the old Interlogix panel, you put up the new IQ panel, You learn in all the existing smoke detectors and door window sensors and things like that. And then inside your box, you open it up and you've got 2 extra door window sensors. And you can start thinking, where else can we put these? Let's talk about this, Mr. Customer. Let's talk about what we can do with this. And inevitably what happens is their eyes start thinking, their eyes open up and they start thinking about all the possibilities. Well, I would like to know about this. I would like to know about that. I wouldn't be surprised if you get customers saying, well, can we also buy an extra one for over here? Can we also buy one for over there? Instead of just simply doing the upgrade and walking out, which, so many of our dealers make the mistake of just swapping out a cell unit and walking out without upgrading them to IQ panel, let alone upgrading lights, locks, thermostats, additional sensors, etc. Now you're getting the customer asking you, and when they ask you for things, you're able to say, sure, let me talk about how much it's going to cost you, how we can configure
when you do that,
whether you're charging them.
You add so much more value to the system. Covering somebody's liquor cabinet or their gun safe. Imagine being out on a date with your wife and you get a notification, liquor cabinet open. That kind of stuff happens. And to know, is that my babysitter or is that one of my teenage kids? Priceless.
Yeah. Robert says, I put a lot of sensors on gun safe. Rachel has an absolutely brilliant idea. Rachel, thank you. I put a sensor on the closet the Christmas presents are in so the kids can't get into it. That's great. Good job. Robert says, I did one for a kid's door to alert the parent when the child gets up in the morning. Edward says that the PG9303 is the best for double hung windows because it's so small. That's a really great point. This is a really thin, small sensor, so that's a great point there. Thank you. Stephen wants to know, is a module needed or is it programmed somehow? So these sensors can be programmed directly with the panel, through the radios that are already installed in the panel. Mark, why don't you talk briefly about how that pairing process goes, how easy that is?
Hey, thanks for bringing this up. So this is very easy, and with some of these devices, they actually have pull tabs. So if you're in the auto learn mode, you can just pull that pull tab to activate the battery power, and they'll learn in that way. But a couple good things to know about PowerG devices is that they do not learn in like a typical legacy sensor where you can just go and trip a door. On a lot of them, if they don't have that battery pull tab, you do need to open them up, and they have an enrollment button. You hold that enrollment button down for 3 seconds. The LED will actually light up amber on that device, and it's in a different place on all PowerG devices. But that's a good thing to know. There's an actual enrollment button. With that, once they've been enrolled and they're learned in, they're in placement mode. So for 15 minutes, you can go out and let's say if you're in an outbuilding, you're in like a garage or something that's very far away from the panel and you're wondering, hey, is this still do I still, have connectivity here? Well, when you trip it, you'll actually see a red LED light up on that device, letting you know, hey, I transmitted a signal. And then right away, you'll get quick 3 flashes. So if it's green, it could be green, amber, or red. Green is strong, amber is good, and then red would be poor. So on that device, you can actually see what kind of connectivity you have. And to go with that, if you are far away, since these panels do have that auto signal adjust, when we've been doing range testing, when we get way out there, way far away, we can actually go and re-trip that device. A little feedback, but we can go re-trip that device or re-tamper it, and it will auto signal adjust again, letting the panel know, hey, this sensor is farther away, and vice versa, so that a PowerG sensor does speak up.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. I want to also show a quick video that was actually filmed by you and Kevin out on the salt flats. This is a little while ago, so I'm going to pull up my YouTube channel here. Hopefully this will play okay for you guys, and you'll be able to hear it okay. And if not, I'm going to go ahead and actually do this real quick. I'm also going to put the link to this in the chat so that if it doesn't play well, you guys can all watch it at a later time. So there it is in the chat as well. But let's see if this will play well. I think this is a pretty fun little bit of video and does a great job of illustrating how far PowerG can truly go.
Guys, we're out here at the Bonneville Health Lab, doing a little bit of testing today. Cars out here at the raceway today.
we're getting some pretty bad feedback here. All right, sorry about that. Can you guys still hear us okay? All right. I'm mute. For some reason, my computer was still connected, which it shouldn't be, but that's okay. And well, we're having all sorts of problems today, aren't we? Rusty. Can you guys still hear me okay? Let's make sure everybody can hear me. Getting an echo. Mute your mic. Yeah. All right, and I'm going to show you just real quick. Let's look at the distance here on this. You can see he's at 3,500 feet. Okay, and you see as he's walking out here, he points out how far away the van is that has the panel on it. Look at that. It's way out there. You see that? Just incredible. And then he makes the point in the video, and again, you can watch it on your own, that you not only can have that from the panel to the sensor that far, but if you were to put a repeater at that point, you could go another 3,500 feet to go again. And then he points out that if you had, that's just from the panel to that, so you could go in the opposite direction. So you're really talking about, a massive, space. Now this is open air, and obviously, manufacturers like us, because we cannot really test every possible environment and tell you every possible environment, we have to kind of, say this is the open air range. And the point he makes in the video is, you know what, if the competitors are telling you that you're getting, 1 to 200 feet in open air range, and we're telling you get, 3,500 feet, or let's say they say 600 feet in open air range, and we're getting 3,500 feet with PowerG, it gives you an example of how much further you can really go. And sometimes that means some really thick walled structures. Bob, you were talking about the thick walls there. Why would you choose PowerG for that installation where you've got those big thick walls instead of drilling through and doing a hardwired system?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have that option because it is a heritage building. It's an old fort, so that is not an option. But either way, again, just because of our familiarity with the product and understanding the range and the capabilities, and obviously this, because the hardwired system that's there now has become a nuisance, we want to go in there and fix that. We don't want to put in a solution or a half-ass solution for something that's going to give them continued problems. So again, we have full faith that this product is going to do what it needs to do and rectify that issue for them.
Steve says we put it here in Kingston with all limestone buildings. Yeah. I've talked to many people in Florida who have some of those hurricane-proof buildings with, lots of cement and rebar in the walls and things like that. Still works great in there. Some of you know that PowerG was also used to build a wireless system on an aircraft carrier that was turned into a museum down in San Diego. Just imagine those big, thick metal bulkheads and wireless signals going through there. I mean, that's, massively challenging wireless scenario, and even more challenging for wired. Can you imagine trying to drill through, steel bulkheads on a battleship or on an aircraft carrier? Very difficult to do. So, short of running conduit around every single corner and things like that, really wireless is the only way to do it. So it's really, really exciting to see some of the possibilities that open up. And the question you can see on the top of the screen is, what can you do with more range? Can you reach that outbuilding? Can you reach that upstairs bedroom window? Can you reach that, space that you couldn't before? Even if it's from a distance standpoint, not that great, but because of all the interference and the other stuff that was in the way, now you can. And one thing I love about PowerG is its ability to circumnavigate the challenges of radio interference. Most sensors, legacy sensors, have a single channel they broadcast on. PowerG has over 60 channels it broadcasts on, which means that as soon as it encounters interference, it automatically recognizes it and changes channel. And so it has 60 different channels to choose from to look for, a clear channel that it can broadcast well. Think of it like listening to your favorite radio station, and then you get to a point where it's staticky and things like that, and being able to change your dial, and it still plays that same station, still plays the same music you love. That's what you get out of PowerG, among all the other things like range and, the ability to regulate the two-way signal to, gain battery life, and of course the industry's best encryption. So pretty awesome. I want to transition a little bit here. Go ahead, Mark.
I was to sit down with a dealer this morning, and I brought up that we were doing this webinar, and he said, "Well, why use PowerG? Why would I go with PowerG as an option?" And I said, "Well, a lot of dealers have moved to that because of issues with loss of supervision." And his response right away was, "Our number one service ticket is loss of supervision." And he started thinking about the cost of having to re-roll out a truck because the sensor goes into loss of supervision, and it just dinged, lit up right away. Wow, this makes sense. I should go PowerG just because of that one thing is the reducing truck rolls with the amount of issues, their number one issue being loss of supervision with legacy sensors.
So some good questions in the chat here. Mark wants to know, does anyone have any experience using it inside storage containers inside a yard? I'm very curious to hear it. My assumption would be if it can go through the bulkheads of, the USS Midway, then it can certainly go through a storage container. But I would love to hear, from people. I do know there was one company, I forget the name of it. They presented last year, Mark, from I think it was Liberty, and they were telling us they used it in many yards for construction yards and things like that. Now, whether or not there were storage containers involved in it, I don't know. But, if you've had some experience in there, please check it out. Oh, Lance just says, yes, I just did one in Ohio, worked great. Steve says, yes, works fine in CCANs as well. Rich wants to know, has it been done in a campus setting? I have heard of it being used in plenty of campus settings. Joel says, I know someone in Central Florida that's using PG 9945 in storage containers. Pete Sweeka also recommends that you could use an external contact as well. So if you couldn't reach that, you could do an external contact like one of the outdoor door window sensors as well. So there's so many great questions and comments in here, everyone. Joe says he used it in a storage container in a landscaping trailer. Lance says they do a lot of containers and steel buildings in rural areas. And Trevor wants to know, how many devices does the IQ panel take if they're doing storage unit? Well, you can pair up to 128 security or life safety devices with the IQ panel and an additional, 175 Z-Wave devices. Isn't that right, Mark?
It's 152 right now. It's the last number I heard.
152. Yeah, so it's a huge number. I've only heard of one dealer that maxed out the number of security devices in a home. That was a big home, and there was pretty much a sensor on everything they could possibly put a sensor on. So pretty cool. John says he did a safe yesterday, and it worked great. Eric wants to know if the sensors work on aluminum windows. They absolutely do. Can put them on there. Aluminum, doesn't have a problem at all. It's just a matter of getting that adhesive to stick, right?
Yeah, these are made to go on.
Say that again, Mark. Yeah. Rich wants to know what's the average battery life on most sensors, and honestly, it really depends on your installation. I would say average is, call it 3 to 5 years, but I've also heard 5 to 8 years depending on the sensor. If you can really do a good job of optimizing the network as you install it, I think that you can really get a lot of great battery life out of it. And that might mean putting a repeater in just to increase the battery life. It might mean just making sure that, everything's installed. And a lot of times it's just even the direction that you install it in, right? Mark, we have a tool right there on the IQ panel that allows you to know what your sensor signal strength is on the sensor, right?
That's correct. So not only can you see it, like I explained earlier, looking at the sensor, but if you're at the panel, the sensor's way out there in that storage unit, in that, that outbuilding, you can just go to the panel and see your sensor strength for your PowerG sensors. So it'll tell you strong or very convenient. From that also, you can test the LED. You can, if you're using a PowerG PIR camera, you can even get a test image from that PowerG test page.
Yeah, pretty awesome. I want to change gears a little bit here, and I want to ask about some of the things. In fact, let's ask this question. The one I asked earlier: what types of installs do you currently do? And again, now you can choose all that apply: residential, small business, builder, multifamily, or wellness. I would have put more options in there, but I'm limited to 5 with our GoToWebinar tool. But hopefully this will give you a nice spread. I'm very curious to see what percentage of things you're doing, because when we talk about the use of an IQ panel and PowerG sensors, or the PowerG Kit like we're talking about today, in a particular scenario, again, you're using the same exact sensors, the same exact panel in each of these scenarios, but you're enabling different things. And for those of you that are, doing residential, you might be enabling things like Bluetooth disarming. You might be doing things like the built-in panel camera and disarm photos. You might be talking about, live answer, the ability to view the video doorbell. If you're doing a commercial setting, maybe you're thinking about, implementing some alarm.com access control into it. Maybe you're going to do partitions and screen lock. If you're in the builder market, maybe you're going to implement our feature that allows you to save construction power once the home is being built, that automatically turns off the lights, turns down the thermostat, and locks the door each night so that the home, even before it's been moved into, is secure. Maybe in the multifamily space, you're going to use our multifamily homepage to allow a light, lock, and thermostat to appear right on the front screen, and integration with things like smart door locks to allow you to do features or for the property manager, like an unattended showing, or the ability to not have to worry about rekeying locks, but simply issuing new codes. Maybe you're doing wellness and you're doing bed sensors, chair sensors, maybe the new well cam and being able to view that on the panel, things like that. So there's lots of really cool things with each of these. But as we talk about these as well, one of the things I want to do is talk about, you can take the same features that we've been talking about since IQ Panel was released 4 years ago and put new spins on them. Here's one idea: Bluetooth sanitary disarming. Okay, imagine instead of Bluetooth disarming being just a convenience factor, that's how we marketed it, that's how we originally built it. Now imagine as you come home from, going to the store, or maybe you're at work, and you touch the door code, you open the door, you touch the door handle, you come in, you flip the light on, you adjust your thermostat, you disarm your panel. That was all process that many people are used to doing. Maybe it's turning up the thermostat, whatever the process is when you come home. And then because you were out, in the world and you want to make sure that your family's safe, you go through with your, Lysol or Clorox wipes and you wipe down the handles and you basically re-go over everything you touched. Well, imagine instead if you're able to go out and market to your customers, oh yeah, our feature has Bluetooth sanitary disarming. It basically means that, you disarm the system as you come home. It automatically disarms so you don't touch your panel. It automatically unlocks the door so you don't touch the door lock. We can install a new lever style door lock for a door handle for you, if you like, so you can use your elbow to push the door open. The thermostat automatically adjusts, the light turns on. You can literally come home and not have to touch anything, and you can literally walk right in the door, go right to the sink and wash your hands. And that, therefore, anything that you brought in from outside is automatically being eliminated, and you don't have to go back through and wipe everything down. It's the same exact feature. You're not doing anything different for it. The difference is how you're marketing it. You're simply looking at it in a different way and helping your customers see it in a different way that's going to build value in them if that's something that's important in their life. I would say the same thing with the doorbell. Many of you are installing doorbells all the time. You've got a lot, it's a very, very popular feature, a very, very popular device. But imagine now as you market this to your customers that you talk about, oh yeah, are you getting deliveries from food, or, it's the holiday season, are you getting packages being delivered to your home? Well, instead of potentially exposing yourself to the virus before a vaccine becomes available, now you can answer that doorbell right from the comfort of the panel or from your phone, and be able to keep yourself safe until such time that you're ready to go out and sanitize those packages and bring them inside the home. So lots of really cool ways to do this. Another point I want to make, and we've talked about this a little bit, is again reminding you that this panel already has 319.5 megahertz built into it. So that means that in addition to the PowerG sensors, imagine walking into a home and they've got 3 doors and a motion installed. You take the Simon XT off the wall, you replace it with an IQ Panel 2. You then add in an extra motion. Where would you like this motion? Let's talk about some extra protection. How can we, further protect your home? And here's two more door window sensors. Maybe you want to take one of those PowerG door window sensors and replace the one on the front door because it's getting old, maybe you want to make sure that that one is encrypted more than anything else because that's the one that's most commonly used. Maybe they've had problems with battery life. Maybe they want sensors installed in other places. They've never had a sensor on the baby's room window because when they first got the system, maybe they didn't have a child, but now they do, and they want a sensor on that window for peace of mind. Maybe they want to put one on the medicine cabinet like we suggested, but you've got two in the box that makes it easier. So, Bob, I wanted to ask you, 3G, or I guess in your case, 2G upgrades. Are you guys doing it now? And how could this PowerG Kit change the way you might approach an upgrade?
Yeah, we are still in the midst of it. I mean, we're maximizing the strength of the product as much as we can. Obviously, with the LTE now, we don't have to worry about the 3G upgrade. So I know our marketing team is working hard on putting this as our first option through social media and lots of different discounts. We're definitely trying to drive that market here as well, and we're showing some success for sure. But yeah, it makes the most sense. It's so feature rich. It's if we're able to get in there in front of the customer and show them what it can do, and I'll use myself as an example. I know we're off the 3G, but I just replaced my Neo at home with a Colsys a few weeks ago, and the most validating comment that I could get from it was my wife, when I was done with it, walked by and said, "Ooh, she loved it." That's the clincher right there. So normally she doesn't care what I do in the security room, but she loved that, and that made it worth it. So
that's great to hear. That's great to hear. I would love to hear from our audience too. What do your sales teams think about the IQ panel? What do they think about PowerG sensors? Do they get excited to use it? Are they, do they feel like it's helping them? We would love to do it. While you're typing that in the chat, I'd also like to ask a poll question. As we, are looking at, the future and thinking about what we're doing in the future, I want to make sure that the webinars we do are geared towards the things you want to know about. And so I'd love to know from your perspective, what are things that you guys want to learn more about? Do you want to learn more about the IQ panel? Are you interested in learning more about security and life safety sensors? And that could be the technical side. That could be the, sales and marketing side of things. Maybe you want to learn more about Z-Wave devices. We could have partners on, light partners, lock partners, thermostat partners that come on and share some of their products and how you can implement them and help you understand the ins and outs of those. Maybe you want to learn more about cameras, indoor cameras, outdoor cameras, doorbells. There's lots and lots of things that, as you all shared with me, the kind of things that you're doing now. I'd love to hear what kind of things do you want to learn more about so we can help you sell more of it. I mean, our goal, as well as your goal, I hope, is to have every home have every possible device, every business have every possible capability, every apartment have every possible connectivity, whether it's flood sensors to prevent floods happening in the apartment from going downstairs and leaking into the apartment down below it, or sensors on medicine cabinets and wellness systems, things like that. And then also the final one is hybrid systems. There's a lot of you, many of you professed on the line today to be doing still a lot of hardwire. So how can we help you learn about hybrid systems? Is that something you're interested in learning about, is doing hardwire and wireless together to leverage the strengths of both in your installs. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll up. Thanks for answering those questions. We do have a short quiz after, not quiz, a short poll. What's the word I'm looking for? Survey. I've got a lot going in my brain right now. Survey going on after this, so stay tuned after this presentation. But just as a reminder, the IQ PowerG Kit is available now. You don't have to sit on the edge of your seat waiting for it. There's no countdowns. It's literally available now. Go out to your distributor, go get one. There's the part numbers right on the screen. We hope you enjoy it. The IQ panel has now been in market since 2016. We released the IQ Panel 2 Plus in 2018, and they've been tremendously popular. They've got all of the features are tried and true. And as you've heard from Bob today on our webinar, as well as many of the people on the line today, as you shared your stories, the features, the benefits have been tremendously powerful in helping you transform your business. And we really do appreciate your business, the work you've done with us, and the continued feedback. And we would ask you, in fact, we'd implore you, keep that feedback coming. You are what makes us great. Your feedback, your ideas, and our joy comes from being able to take the things you say, hey, I sure would love to be able to fill in the blank, and make it a reality for you. So it's really exciting for that. So thank you again for everyone. Bob, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to join us today. Really appreciated your insight. Thanks for that. Any final words for the audience today?
If you aren't using it, again, I fully endorse it. Again, we've been a PowerG adopter since early on, and now coupled with the IQ 2 Plus, you can't go wrong. I defy anybody to have something better.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. And Mark, thank you for your time, your insight. Some of the things you've shared with us today really helped out. Really appreciate your time. Anything you want to share with the audience before we go?
One question I will get sometimes is, hey, what's your favorite thing about PowerG, favorite feature? With life safety sensors, the UL listing is for them to check in at least once every 4 hours, where a standard security sensor is once every 24 hours. And I love the PowerG smokes. The reason why is one go, they all go. And since they have to be supervised more often, less issues with loss of supervision, or no issues. So one go, all go, I think is a huge thing with the PowerG smokes. They can even sound during any alarm event. So you can use them as additional sounders in your house. Alarm goes off and your PowerG smoke detector is going off in the hallway.
Pretty awesome. Thank you, everyone. I've got some good questions in the chat here. People are asking, hey, I went to my distributor's website and I'm not finding it. This is a fairly new kit. We let our distributors know about this a couple weeks ago. Maybe they haven't gotten into their system yet. Give them a call. They'll be able to order it. It is available now. If you want to let us know which distributors you're reaching out to that, maybe don't have it, we'll reach out to them and make sure they get it on their shelves if they don't have it already. The other thing I would recommend as well, and it's part of our survey, is, if you don't have special pricing set up with your local distributor, make sure you reach out to them and ask, or reach out to a member of the sales team. You find your Johnson Controls rep and ask them about it. We all want everyone to get special pricing. You're all special, and we want to make sure that you get the very best pricing available to you. So thanks very much. So we're going to end the webinar now. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. It'll prompt you to fill out a quick short survey. And again, a reminder that this was recorded, so feel free to share that recording with others. And thank you again for all your business. We appreciate it. Bob, Mark, thanks again for your time today too.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.